So our featured speaker tonight is one of the most prominent venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. He's an iconic figure. He's been around a long time. That's our credibility. Anyway, he's a very nice guy sometimes, and he's a dynamic speaker. So let's hear from Bill and give a big wow to Bill Reichert.
Jesus. I love it. I was going to thank you for that introduction, Rob, but I love it when, and he's been around a long time. That was great. Yes, which is another way of saying that he's. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So, Maureen, I appreciate that. So, well, okay. So, thank you, Rob. In spite of all that, thank you to Rob and his team at Idea to IPO for pulling this together. This evening. I do appreciate this opportunity. Rob and I have done this, several times now. It's always great fun. And thank you to the College of San Mateo for hosting. And I want to give a shout out to my Swedish friends in the audience. Here we are. Oh yeah. So we have a strong Swedish contingent here tonight, which is just wonderful. So I appreciate that as well. So as Rob said, the idea tonight is to create an interactive event where hopefully all of you are going to learn how to do a better job of articulating your value proposition. So this is not just about entrepreneur elevator pitching. This is about communications. And where this came from is from my own experience. Over the years, I spent most of my career as an entrepreneur. I did 4 venture-backed startup companies over the years. And in the course of that, I got a lot of training and coaching on how to do a pitch to an investor and to customers, and marketing, communications, and PR, and value proposition, and all that stuff. And then I crossed over to become a venture capitalist. And I got to listen to all that stuff, right? So listen to hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs give me their pitches. Their short pitches, their long pitches, and everything in between. Their email pitches, their paper pitches, their PowerPoint pitches, their voicemail pitch. I got all these pitches. And I realized that we were doing something wrong. As a community, we were just doing something wrong. And I realized that the problem is we spend so much time, trying to get it right that we take all the blood out of everybody's communications. And so after coaching and training and work and diligence, we all learn how to communicate what we want to try to communicate. But we fail to get the listener to get to wow. And the reality we know in this world is basically you've got 20 seconds to say something compelling, or you might as well go home. Because that's the situation we are all in most of the time when we are communicating. Really, you've got that first 20 seconds where you got to capture their enthusiasm, their interest, or they kind of tune out on you. But unfortunately, we've been trained to think, okay, in a corporate presentation or an elevator pitch presentation or whatever presentation you've got, you have a captive audience, right? And so the thesis is, I've got whatever that time is to get all this stuff out. And I'm telling you, it's killing you. It's killing you if you decide that I got 5 minutes to talk. If you don't get to wow in the first 20 seconds, they're not going to listen. So what I want to talk about tonight is how to get to wow. Some of the lessons that we have learned, I've learned personally, research has shown, scientific studies have proven that there are techniques you need to pay attention to if you want to get people to listen to you, right? So what we've learned is that communications is actually fundamentally, it's about the human anatomy. Where is he going with this? Oh, here. Okay. So how is it about the human anatomy? It turns out what we know is that an effective communicator engages 3 body parts. First, of course, the head, right? When you communicate with other people, you've got to appeal to their brains. It's got to be sensible. They've got to understand it. It's got to be logic. Ideally, it's backed with evidence and facts, right? So that's the standard communication training everybody gets. That's the way everybody puts together their PowerPoints. They spend 99% of their time figuring out how to appeal to the brain, to the logical part of the human being. But what we all know from our day-to-day experience is you also have to figure out how to reach the heart, right? We all know this. And, what's kind of amazing is, in spite of the fact that intuitively we all know that people make decisions not with their brains, but with their hearts. We do what we want to do, not necessarily what our brain tells us we should do. And this is the core of all Madison Avenue advertising. So Madison Avenue learned this 100 years ago. But when we coach entrepreneurs, when we train business people how to communicate, we don't talk about this at all. And yet, recently now we've had Nobel Prizes awarded to people who figured out that we don't think with our heads, we think with our hearts. Right? So your trick as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a communicator, your trick is to figure out how to get their heart to beat faster. And so my core epiphany when I became a VC, long after I was an entrepreneur, I discovered this astonishing thing about this venture world that we live in now, which is that VCs do not invest in companies with their brains. They invest in companies with their hearts. So when I became a VC, after having been an entrepreneur for all these years, I was wondering, what's the secret? What's the secret to figuring out how to get VCs to invest in you? So when I was an entrepreneur, I was taught, you just have to do this perfect, logical, database, evidence-based, PowerPoint presentation, right? And then I cross over, I become a VC, and we at Garage, we were funded by the big guys. So Sequoia and Mayfield and Draper Fisher and Silicon Valley Bank and all these guys put money in Garage, and they were our initial source of funding. So I go to my new VC buddies and I say, okay, now I'm one of you. Tell me, what's the algorithm that you use, right? Because I assumed that these VCs, they were these brilliant analytic brains who could listen to all these entrepreneurs and process all these words in real time and calculate an internal rate of return and then make an investment decision. But when I asked the VCs, what's the algorithm? They looked at me like, huh? What do you mean? And I said, well, how do you make these investment decisions? They said, well, we invest in teams. Yeah, we invest in teams, right? So, okay, but how? How do you do this? And I said, well, it's kind of pattern recognition. After 5 or 10 years, you kind of figure it out. And I'm going, you have to be kidding me. Really? Is that really what you guys get paid for? And so I started watching how different investors would make these investment decisions. And I started watching how we made our own investment decisions. And what I discovered that nobody told me when I was an entrepreneur, that I'm going to tell you now, the dirty secret about venture capital is VCs fall in love and then they rationalize it with their brains. So the way to be successful as an entrepreneur is not to try to convince their brains that you have a logical investment opportunity. The way to be successful as an entrepreneur is to get them to fall in love. And so my advice to entrepreneurs is you have to figure out what it is you have, what it is about your company, what it is about your team that is lovable. What is it that's going to make their heart beat faster? So at this point, generally an entrepreneur raises his or her hand and says, okay, Bill, why do VCs fall in love? So there might be a song here someday. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, maybe not. Okay. So why do VCs fall in love? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why VCs get excited. There's some negative reasons that we hear a lot about in the press, right? So sometimes VCs get excited because of the fear of missing out. And that's not going to work for most people, right? For most entrepreneurs, you're not going to be able to play the fear of missing out card. For most entrepreneurs, you got to get them to fall in love with you. And the way that VCs fall in love is one of three types of love. So the first type of VC love. VCs fall in love with teams. So we love it when this team, they come into our office and they're bright and they're well scrubbed and they're articulate and they work well together and clearly they can execute. And we go, wow, this team is really amazing. I know they can do it. So VCs fall in love with teams. But sometimes, second kind of VC love, sometimes we fall in love with technology. Now, we know we shouldn't fall in love with technology. We know this is a bad idea, but we do. We fall in love with technology because we're all kind of gadget freaks and we all kind of think some things are cool. And every once in a while, we'll get the geekiest, nerdiest team coming into our office and they can make bits do something we've never seen bits do before. Or they can make atoms do something they can do something so cool that we just go, whoa, that is cool. We got to do that. So that's the second kind of VC love. And then the third kind of VC love, every once in a while, VCs, they'll fall in love with a vision. So a team comes into the office and they paint a vision of a future they're going to create that you just say, I want to be part of that. It's so amazing. It's so cool. So the best example of that company we invested in, this happened to us. 4 graduate students from Stanford, they come into our office and they tell us this story about how they have developed a solar rechargeable lantern that is going to replace kerosene for the bottom 2 billion people on the planet who depend upon kerosene for lighting at night. And as a result, they pay all this money for kerosene. The kids all get asthma from the smoke inhalation. Their homes burn down because of kerosene. All this horrible stuff that happens because of kerosene. And they have developed this beautiful, elegant design of a solar rechargeable lamp with the last generation LED and a small little solar panel that is cheaper than kerosene and gives you better light. And we look at these guys and we go, wow, that's amazing. And our initial reaction was, well, it's one of those do-good, social, philanthropic kind of things, and And the guys, they came over the table at us and they said, you don't get it. If we're going to change the lives of 2 billion people, we have to build a big, successful, global, scalable, profitable company. And we went, whoa, we love these guys. So we were the first guys to fund this company called Delight Design. And Delight Design is now the leading solar rechargeable lantern on the planet. They are killing it. They've now changed the lives of over 60 million people on the planet. And so that's a great kind of love, when you can paint the vision of changing the universe and get investors to say, Yeah, that's something I really want to do. So, the trick for all entrepreneurs is figure out what is lovable about what you're doing and make sure you get that across to the investors. So that's appealing to the heart. But now there's a third body part you got to take into account. So what's the third body part? The third body part is the gut, right? We all know about gut instinct. And the challenge a lot of entrepreneurs have is you got to pass the gut test. In other words, in that first instant, when you meet someone, you have a reaction to that person, right? You trust them or you don't trust them. You believe them, you don't believe them. You think they're a little slimy, you think they're nice. Whatever it is, right? We all have this instinctive gut reaction. And so you've got to get past the gut check. You've got to make sure that you come across as credible, as somebody that investor, the other person, can trust to be true to their word, to live up to their promises. If you don't come across as credible, as trustworthy, as honest, as having integrity, you're going to fail the gut check. And it doesn't matter how cool your technology is, if you fail the gut check, you're not going to get funding. So this has to do with the way you articulate your value proposition, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So those are the three body parts that you've got to pay attention to. So which do you guys think is the most important? See if you were listening. What's the most important? Thank you. Okay, the heart. You know, it's all about the love. You got to get them to fall in love with you. So, to the contrary, however, most entrepreneurs that we come across come in with a typical elevator pitches that are something like this. For example, words we've actually heard, the name is changed to protect the guilty. Coolco is a dynamic startup company that has developed a revolutionary technology that's going to disrupt our $56 billion industry. Our team has over 45 years of combined experience, and we have 3 patents pending. We project that our curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, revolutionary technology is going to transform, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, somebody has taught that entrepreneur, you gotta seem passionate, right? Passion is important. But, I mean, okay, so the other end of the spectrum. This team actually walked into our office and they actually said the following. We use a 2048 Diffie-Hellman key exchange and 256-bit triple DES to provide impenetrable encryption for IoT devices. Yeah! So the challenge, of course, is we're sitting there going, and the entrepreneur is, right? And you do not want to be there. And most entrepreneurs don't realize that this is where they are in the first 30 seconds. They just think the sky is pretty, right? So what you have to do is you have to figure out at the beginning how to get them engaged and excited and wanting to listen to the rest of what you've got to say. Now, what I'm going to say now is a little controversial, which is to say, I want you to throw out all the pitch coach wisdom that you've received over the years. Because what I've found is that fundamentally most pitch coaches have been damaging to most entrepreneurs. So there's a lot of pitch coach wisdom out there that sounds like it makes sense, but it actually hurts you. What's the first thing every pitch coach tells you to talk about? Start with the problem, right? So every pitch coach says, you got to start with the problem, right? Because this is logical. Problem, solution. That's a natural, logical way to articulate your story. So what happens? Typically, a company, they walk into our office, we're ABC mobile app company, and let us tell you about our company. First, let's talk about the problem. Did you know there are 2.65 billion smartphones on the planet. And that's growing at a compounded annual rate of 17.45%. So that by the year 2022, we expect that there are going to be over 7.14 billion smartphones on this planet. And it turns out we've discovered that there's an average of 6.5 apps that are down. So 3 minutes later, right, after we've learned everything there is to know about the mobile app, phone, smart business, they flip the slide and they say, slide says solution. We have an app that helps you find the best games. You go, what? Are you kidding me? And so, the point being, if you just tell us the solution up front, I guarantee you that 9 out of 10 of you, if you just tell us the solution, we know the problem you're solving. But for some reason, somewhere in the annals of communications training, somebody said, you start with the problem, then you do the solution. And that is stuck with every pitch coach in the history of the planet. And because it's so easy to talk about the problem, right? You got so much data about the smartphone industry, you can talk about the smartphone industry for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And it does you no good because, a few minutes into it, we're under the table, we're doing our email. You do not want us doing that. So the other typical, actually not a lot anymore, but we were one of the most active clean tech investors when clean tech was big. So, sorry, Annette, that's just not that big anymore. So, in any case, now we call it material science because that's, but in any case, every clean tech entrepreneur who got into our office, they would come in, they would put up their title slide, and then they would click their PowerPoint button, and the first slide for every clean tech PowerPoint deck is a picture of downtown Beijing. Right? And then the entrepreneur goes into a 5-minute discussion about, there are 3.25 trillion tons of carbon dioxide that are being poured into our atmosphere every year and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there saying, we know there's pollution, okay? We got it. What the frick do you do? Tell us, okay? So just tell us what you do. Do not chew up all this time starting with the problem. Okay, the next thing that pitch coaches tell every entrepreneur to do is tell a story, right? Because we have all this research that shows that human beings are better able to remember a story than just a whole collection of facts. So this is true, but there's a time and a place to tell a story. And typically, at the beginning of your pitch is not a good time. But instead, we get these entrepreneurs, they come into our office, they put up their title slide and they say, hi, my name is Bill, and before I tell you about our company, I want to tell you a story. When I was a child, my grandfather had a farm, and on the farm there was a pond, and across the pond there were some woods, and I would go down to the pond in the afternoon, and I would look at whatever, right? So, please, 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 get to the point, all right? Maybe afterwards, if you're lucky enough to have a beer with the investors, you can tell the story. But do not start with a story. So I'm going to give you one exception, which is, if you can tell a story in one sentence, then I'll let you tell a story. So we're going to talk about that later on. Okay? The next thing that every pitch coach has got to tell every entrepreneur is, those god darn VCs, they all want unicorns, right? So, you got to convince them that you're going to be a unicorn. So you got to show a big market. And so now, 90% of all PowerPoint decks have this market size slide that has this series of circles in it. You all use this, right? Admit it. You've all seen this slide. And it says, so the title of the slide is market size. And the next line says, we're going after a piece of a $3.2 trillion market. You know, because you got this big bubble that says $3.2 trillion. And then there's a smaller bubble, and that's the SAM. And then there's a smaller bubble, and that's the whatever, and there's a smaller bubble. And so way down in the bubbles, you know, maybe you're suggesting that you're going after a $2.5 billion market. Whatever. The point is you've destroyed your credibility by the time you start talking about the smaller bubbles. So most every entrepreneur wants to pretend that they have this huge market they're going after because they've been coached that VCs are so stupid that they will believe you if you say you're going after a $56 billion market. We don't believe you. And it kills your credibility. And then last, you know, there are all sorts of templates out there and blogs and videos and books and everywhere. There are all these templates for PowerPoint pitches and for executive summaries and for business model canvases and blah, blah, blah. There are plenty of templates out there. So God bless, you know, we've got all these people in the ecosystem. We're trying to be helpful, and I'll admit, we've got templates on the Garage website as well. So we're guilty as well. What I'm telling you, though, is never use a template religiously, because the template was not designed for your company and for your challenges and for your stage and for your circumstances. So, but most entrepreneurs, they got the template and they think, aha, I've got it. And they diligently fill in the blanks. And after working hard to diligently fill in the blanks and put a bunch of pretty pictures in it, they think, the perfect pitch. And certainly it's not the perfect pitch, because every company has different critical issues that you've got to focus on. And the generic template is just that. It treats everything equally, as if the market and the competition and the technology and the go-to-market strategy and the financial requirements are all of equal importance. But they never are. Some things are more important than others. So you've got to figure out what's the most important thing to focus on and rearrange the template so that you're focused on the most important things. So never follow a template religiously. Think of it as kind of a guideline, all right? Maybe a checklist. What I'm saying is, if you listen to this Pitch Coach wisdom, you will not get to wow. What I want to share with you is a model for getting to wow that will help you be more effective. And it starts with what I call the 3 C's. The 3 C's of getting to wow are that in the first 20 seconds, you have to be clear about what you do. You have to articulate a compelling value proposition. And you have to establish your credibility that what you're doing is really different, and there's some evidence to suggest that you can pull it off. So be clear, be compelling, be credible. So this is a good set of principles for every communication you do the rest of your lives. Think about it. Anytime you want to communicate anything, it makes sense to be clear, be compelling, and be credible. So, as you'll notice, that maps to the body parts. Be clear. It's got to be logical. It's got to be understandable. It's got to be something I can remember. Be compelling. Make my heart beat faster. And be credible. Pass the gut check. Be clear, be compelling, be credible. What I want to share with you is going to be useful beyond just pitching. Again, it's not just about pitching. It's about all communications to investors, to customers, to potential employees. If you figure this out, of course it'll be useful with investors. It helps you when you're talking to customers. It might be a little bit different with customers than it is investors. It's not the same, but the principles are the same. You know, think about schmoozing at events. You've only got 20 seconds for each of these interactions. When you're posting updates, you only got 140 characters, right? When you're recruiting employees, when you're looking for strategic partners, when you're sending out your emails, on your website. What's on your website? What's on your website? I'm willing to bet you have the name of your company, which is some extraordinary non-English word that you were able to get the URL for, right? And there's some tagline, like empowering the future, right? How many have empowering the future as their tagline? So, how do you clearly and in a way that's compelling communicate what you do on your website? It's really hard to do, and not too many people do it well. When you're leaving voicemails, this kills me. This happens all the time. Believe it or not, if you call Garage, well, believe it or not, we have a phone number, right? If you call Garage, believe it or not, a human being will not answer. So you're going to get voicemail. And so we get these messages all the time from people who are shocked. It sounds like they're shocked that a human didn't answer. And so we get this message, something like, oh, hi, yeah, this is Bob. Yeah, I got a company. We're starting up this company, and we need some money. Could you call me back? Yeah. So, wouldn't it make sense to say something that would actually motivate me? Okay. On your press releases, your marketing materials, when you're training the team, the point is you can use these principles all the time. Okay, so how do you get there from here? 3 simple steps to getting to wow. And I want each of you, how many people here are entrepreneurs, building companies, right? Okay, all right. So we've got a few entrepreneurs who are going to pitch us in a few minutes. And I'm sorry, you may or may not be able to change your pitch. I'm going to give you a little bit of breathing space here. But maybe your pitch is already perfect, okay? So hopefully it's already perfect and we'll be okay. But all of you should be thinking about, can you write this sentence for your company? What's the first sentence that you need to get across? Well, what is it you do? What does your company do? How do you describe what your company does? Well, most people say, we have a disruptive technology platform that's going to transform a 56, right? That's what most people say. It doesn't communicate anything. And no good journalist is ever going to print that sentence. What you should do is figure out what is the sentence. If you got a great journalist, TechCrunch is going to write a feature article on your company, what is the sentence that you wish that journalist would use to describe your company? It's not going to be curve jumping, paradigm shifting, disruptive, right? They're not going to say that. They're going to say, ABC Co. makes widgets. But you want something better than that. So what's the sentence you want everyone to remember, to repeat when they say, hey, what does that company do? They do ... So use simple, I say, Wall Street Journal language, right? Sophisticated business language. Not IEEE Spectrum language, right? And not Dick and Jane, go down, whatever, right? So you want it to be sophisticated business language that anybody can understand and remember and repeat. Those are the criteria, okay? Do you all have that sentence for your company? Do you really have that sentence for your company? Most entrepreneurs actually don't. Most entrepreneurs say, oh, okay, what do you do? Well, yeah, we got an app, and it's for social and local and mobile and whatever. So, okay, what is your sentence? Do you have it? Second sentence. This is where you got to get the heart beating faster, right? What is the compelling benefit you offer to whom? So I don't want all the features, I don't want all the components, I don't want all the capabilities. I want the compelling benefit. And this is important. What we've learned over the years is you can't put together a lot of pretty good stuff and hope that that's going to add up to something really big. What we've learned is most really successful companies are really successful because they do one thing amazingly well. And then they cover off everything else. But something stands out. something rises to the top as the thing they do better than anyone else that is compelling. So what is the compelling benefit for your company? A way to write this sentence is to start with the big idea. The big idea behind our company is ... What's the big idea? It should be obvious to you. And if it isn't obvious to you, it's never going to be obvious to your listener what the big idea is. So figure out what's the big idea and articulate that. And then the third sentence has to do with this credibility thing, right? So, another dirty little secret about venture capitalists. It never occurred to me when I was pitching as an entrepreneur that the VCs I was pitching to could think anything other than what an amazingly unique and powerful and elegant and brilliant concept. Of course, that's what I thought every VC was thinking when I was pitching them. But what every VC was actually thinking, and I didn't know this until I became one, as soon as you open your lips, what happens is the VC in the back of their brain, they're going, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Who did I hear that from? That was that team that came into our office, and what was the name of that guy and he was working with? And so their brain is kind of going like this, trying to remember all the different entrepreneurs they've heard that are doing something that sounds exactly like what you're doing. You've got to shut that down immediately. You've got to shut it down in the first 20 or 30 seconds and say, well, unlike those other companies you may have heard of that are doing something similar to this, what we can do that is different and unique is ... And that has been demonstrated by this customer and this customer and this brand name customer who picked us over the competition. Credibility. I get it, why you're different. So, you'll excuse me. Let me see if I can. Okay, so you've got to shut down in the brain of the VC their tendency to think, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Okay, isn't this astonishing? In the history of the world, nobody has developed a dais that you can put a bottle of water, right? Isn't that bizarre? You would think that would be a natural to have. All right, so someday somebody will invent that. All right, so those are the 3 steps. Excuse me. Those are the 3 steps I want all of you to be able to go through, and that I'm hoping each of the entrepreneurs will do tonight. All right? So, clear description of what you do, compelling benefit, and then differentiation that establishes your credibility. Now, at this point, usually an entrepreneur raises their hand and says, wait a second, Bill. That looks like a template. Isn't that a template? You told us not to do templates. So what gives here? Well, okay, so the reality is start with the template, but you're going to evolve to a better solution. Through some iterations, you're going to try some other things, and here are some directions you should go. So, I told you never to tell a story. Well, if you can tell a story or paint a picture in one sentence, then that can be very powerful. So instead of describing what you do, if you have a sentence that begins with, imagine if. Imagine if you had an application that could pull together all of your contacts from your email contact list and your social media contact list and your corporate Salesforce contact list and all the different contacts you have into one simple contact database. Wouldn't that make your life better? So if you can paint a picture of what you're doing and the compelling benefit, then that can be a very powerful, effective way to get the first 2 points across, right? Also, use tricks like analogies and metaphors and similes to make it clear that you are like other companies. Now, don't just say you are the Uber of, or you're the Google of, or whatever. Use analogies that communicate clearly what you are and how you're different. You know, my favorite example from way, way, way back, a team comes into our office. This is before YouTube. Team walks into our office and says, you know, there's a lot of video on the internet now. Well, we're going to be the TV guide of the internet. We go, obvious, yeah. Why doesn't that exist? It makes sense. The other thing you should do that is totally different from everything I've been saying is if you have an extraordinary brand name that establishes that you are an extraordinary team or an extraordinary company, and you can drop that name, drop it early and often. So, for example, the best example of this that I ever came across, I happened to be down in New Zealand, and I was judging a pitch competition, and this woman gets up and says, hi, my name is Claudia, and we have a special effects software company for the entertainment industry. Last year, we won the Academy Award. Boom. And then she goes on to talk about what her suite of software does and what they've done, blah, 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 blah. And I said, Claudia, you had me at Academy Award, right? So how many people here have won an Academy Award? Ready? No? Oh, shucks. Okay. So, well, in any case, someday, maybe, the other end of the spectrum, a team comes into our office. Hour-long pitch. 55 minutes into the pitch, they get to the team slide because they followed the template, right? So they're 55 minutes into the pitch, they get to the team slide, and in the corner of the team slide, it says one of the co-founders was a Nobel laureate. And we look at this and we go, oh my God, you're kidding, really? Bill Sharp is one of your founders. And they go, yeah. So, well, why didn't you tell us that at the beginning? They said, well, we wanted to end with a bang. And we said, yeah, but if you had told us that at the beginning, we would have listened. Right? Right? So don't be clever, all right? If you've got something big, just give it to us in the first 30 seconds. So a couple of other tips, and then you guys are up. All right? You guys ready? Almost? You're thinking? You're processing? Ready? Okay. So just emphasize, keep it simple. Keep it simple. One of the things I mentioned before, first you got to get them to fall in love, but then they've got to have enough in their brains that they can go back to their partners and explain what it is they fell in love with. So that means it's got to be clear and memorable. So that means it's got to be simple. You know, your description of your company can't just be this convoluted compound sentence. It's got to be clear, simple, and memorable. Make sure you are customer focused. 99% of entrepreneurs miss this. Almost every entrepreneur, as soon as they start talking, they start describing the product. So they talk about the product and what the product does and its features and its capabilities and the stack that it's built on and the iOS version versus the Android. They talk about the product. Think about what you're saying, always couched in terms of the customer. We want you to be customer focused. Anticipate the obvious issues. This is the opposite. This is the other side, the converse side of the template problem. You may not be able to get this in the first 30 seconds, but certainly in the first minute, you've got to make sure you address whatever elephant in the room you have discovered that most investors have. Excuse me. So, each of you has had this experience, I'm sure, where you have discovered, where you've discovered at the end of your pitch, there are some common questions. Everybody has the same 3 questions for each of you. But among you, it's different questions for each of you. So figure out what the obvious questions are that everybody's asking and preempt them. No matter what the template says, get to them quickly so that the investor or the listener is not just sitting there thinking, yeah, but. We've all had this experience. You listen to somebody selling you something, And you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, but how can I get this guy to shut up, right? You've got to get rid of those buts as quickly as you can, okay? So, and then use 1 or 2 numbers. It's not memorable if you use 10 numbers. We can't keep that in our minds. And my last tip to everyone is just make sure you don't lie. Now, of course, all of you think, I would never lie. But 99% of entrepreneurs in their pitches, they're lying. They're lying about the size of the market. They're lying about their financial projections. They're lying about, their go-to market strategy. They're lying. Now, they think of it as passion and optimism, and that's okay and that's good. That's fine. But if you go too far in terms of passion and optimism and hyperbole, it bleeds over into misrepresentation, and it destroys your credibility. And so I know you're not really going to lie, but I'm just telling you, be careful you don't exaggerate so much in your passion and your optimism that you hurt your credibility. So as a result of listening to thousands of entrepreneurs pitch over the years, we developed what we call the top 10 lies of entrepreneurs, which I'm not going to go through tonight. You can find them on our website if you're interested. And now what I'm going to do is before I get to the rest of it, are you guys ready? Are the pitchers ready? Everybody's ready? All right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to back up here a little bit. We'll see how good they do. We're going to have a few entrepreneurs try it out. And we're going to have this sort of real-time back and forth in terms of what works and what doesn't work. So this is part of where you guys are involved. What I want you guys to be thinking about as each entrepreneur pitches, I want you to think about, is it clear? Do I know what they do? Is it compelling? Can I see that someone could be excited about this? And is it credible? Is it different from other people? And is there evidence that suggests that they can win? And so think about how each of our entrepreneurs this evening can do a better job, and I might ask for audience feedback to help the entrepreneurs as well. Okay? And then after this, we're going to do some Q&A on this. All right? So, are you ready? Who's up first? Oh, great. Okay.
First of all, let's hear it for Bill.
Okay. So, are we going to do 2 mics? We can do 2 mics?
Yeah. One for you.
Okay. All right.
So we went through a few days of tryouts and rehearsals, and we came up with some solid entrepreneurs. FYI, here's the format: 1 minute, no slides, followed by 4 minutes of feedback,
Right.
rebuttal, torture from Bill.
Oh. Tough
But
love.
actually,
Tough love.
it's not a contest. We're not here to pick first, second, third. It's a learning experience. And FYI, because it's a public event, we like to be totally in compliance. So we don't talk about dollar amounts for such and such. But Bill's going to get the executive summary with that information. If he's interested, he'll follow up, right? If he's not interested, you're not going to hear from him.
Thank you.
Okay, without further ado, our first presenter is Lonnie from CogniTutor. Let's hear it for Lonnie. All the way from Gilroy.
All right, Lonnie, come on up. Okay, so let's do this, a little informally. I don't want you to just stand and deliver. I want to imagine that we bump into each other, right? Hey, Lonnie, hi, I'm Bill.
Hi.
Good to
I'm
meet
Lonnie.
you.
Nice to meet you.
So tell me, what do you do?
Well, CogniTutor tutors students to learn smarter, and they effectively do that by teaching them to learn. And so this way, they do better not only in the subject that they're learning now, but in the future.
Okay, that sounds like a good thing. So, okay, so that was quick. We know sort of the value proposition, right? So what I heard was, okay, CogniTutor tutors students to learn better.
Right. So
By-
how to learn.
by tutoring them how to learn. CogniTutor, tutor students, okay? So now, a couple of just general points. First, a general point is, if you're ever anywhere and you have a company, so CogniTutor, I pretty much understood, I think I'm getting it right, CogniTutor,
Yep.
right? So as in cognitive and tutor, I get it, right? That comes together. A lot of entrepreneurs, they have a name for the company that's kind of hard to know exactly what they're saying. So this doesn't apply here, but just make sure generally, if you're meeting someone, either have the name of your company on your badge, so I would have known the name, so I'd know the name of the company. This is a tip for the other guys. Or, be ready with a great business card that has the name of the company clearly on the business card, so that we're not confused about what the name of your company is. Because if we're stumbling over the name of the company at the beginning, then we can't hear the rest. Now, what was the challenge with Lonnie's short pitch? Feedback from the audience. Does everybody understand how she's doing it? Does anybody understand? Except for, is your co-founder here?
No.
Okay. Okay. So you went entirely to value proposition at a very high level. Learn better by learning how to learn.
Yeah.
Okay? So
I
that's
thought
a
we were
little...
going to give our entire pitch.
No.
You were going to sit down there, that's why.
Oh, you were ready to go for 5 minutes.
No, I was
No.
ready to go for like 50 seconds.
Okay,
but,
you could have gone longer. You could have. You stopped, and so I jumped in. Okay, give me the next 3 sentences. Is that fair?
I probably shouldn't have gone first.
No. Oh, by the way, everybody give Lonnie a hand for going first. All right, Lonnie, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, good. Okay, so how do you teach students how to learn?
So normally the way that I would describe it is I would say other companies look at it completely the wrong way. They try to cram your head full of material and you don't know how to process all of it. So you start learning Algebra 1 and the next year you're in tutoring again for Algebra 2. So the way that we do it is we train our tutors to go over different types of learning and then how people normally learn, and then teach those skills to their students so that not only do they do better then, but then the rest of their life too.
Okay, so I having done some ed tech in my career, I know where you're going with this. It's still pretty abstract, I think, in most cases, right? Still pretty abstract. So when you just talked then, you spent about 30 seconds or so, and I'm being a little tough here, you spent about 30 seconds or so saying most instructional materials do it the wrong way. They do it by trying to cram your head full of facts, and so you do Algebra 1 and you have your and then Algebra 2, your turn. So you spent like 30 seconds talking about how bad the current system is.
Right.
And what's happening is most people actually know how bad the current system is, right? So yes, in that sense, maybe you feel as though you're establishing a bond between you and the parent because we all know how education sucks and we're going to solve this problem. But I would encourage you to get to the difference faster, right? So now, and maybe, I don't know if an imagine if will work in this case, but maybe instead you say something like, with CogniTutor, our students don't just learn the facts, they learn ... which helps them, I see you have to fill in the ... here, which helps them be more successful at their own learning or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's something going on that's an educational theory that you have or educational framework that you have that you didn't get across. And you got to get that across quickly.
Yeah.
So you have a unique model of learning. You're not the first person to think about it, but you're the first guys to put it into this particular form. Is that true?
It is true.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Why am I saying it and not you?
Because it's your talk.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, big hand. Okay. Okay.
Okay, next
All right.
up,
There we
we
go.
have
Okay, I just want the rest of you to know, I hope you don't, think I'm being too mean up here. I'm trying to be constructive, okay? Okay, all right,
Next
and
up
I
we
apologize. I'm going to force you to stay here.
next up we have Arslan from Wizran. Let's hear it for Wizran.
All right. Okay, hey Arslan, how you doing?
Pretty good yourself.
I'm doing great. So, hey, tell me what you're up to.
So I'm the founder and CEO of Vizran, and we measure water for you to manage. And essentially, this year we won the IEEE IoT Startup Pitch Competition at Consumer Electronics Show, and we are after the market where the condominiums everybody pays the same price for regardless how much they consume. So if you are a family of 2 and I'm a family of 10 people, we're all paying the same cost. So essentially, you're subsidizing me. So what we are doing, we are sub-metering each condominiums, and how we are different from our competitors, that we provide, we detect leakages in real time, which prevents the water-related damages on properties, which helps you reduce your insurance costs. In our market, there are about 1 million such condominiums in US. We are charging $4, $4.5 to be precise, per month, per unit. And our upfront cost for the hardware is $265. So that makes our market size $46 million. And we are a team of 4. I went to NYU.
All right. All right. Go, Arslan. Okay. All right, so I let him keep going. But I shouldn't have let you keep going that long. All right. So, that was good. Okay, but we're going to work on this a little bit. All right, so he started with, we measure water for you to manage. And then he said, we won the IEEE pitch competition, the IoT pitch competition, right? That's what you said next. And then basically, eventually we heard that you provide water meters for multi-tenant buildings that currently don't have separate water meters for each unit, right? Yep. Okay. So this is an interesting question. Is it obvious the problem he's solving until we know what his solution is? And it's a little bit in between, right? Because, there's no problem in my house measuring water, right? But I don't have that circumstance. So what I would have done, I think, is something like, 40% of Americans live in multi-tenant buildings where there is not a meter for individual units, causing a lot of waste and a lot of whatever. Yeah. We have a cheap smart meter that we can install after, retrofit, to measure each unit's water. Now, I don't know if what the data is, and so, but if you, I think you can wrap that into one sentence without having to go into, in a lot of apartments, you have 10 people in one apartment and 2 people in the other apartment, and it turns out they pay the same, even though they use a different amount of water. I'm being a little bit fine-tuned here, but if you get to the point, and then, so the point is, so an interesting case here, who is the beneficiary of this technology?
Condominium association.
So it's not the consumer.
Not the consumer.
So, which is an important point you got to make, okay. Right? So back to who is the customer here? I figured it out, but you were talking about $4.5. How many people have $4.5 in their pocket? Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. To be precise. Okay. So, but you were off to the races, and I'm still thinking the customer, oh yeah, the customer, I guess, is the building owner, whoever, right, pays the water bill at the building. So make sure we get that, you know, up front before you race off. Any other comments for Arsalan? It was pretty clear. Yeah.
So he started with the prompt, basically the solution, and then he went with what they achieved, and then talked about consumers, and then went to the market size, which he was kind of trying to rush everything in just that 40-45 seconds.
Right.
Instead of that, he should have just focused on the beneficiary and the market, which is basically what he's solving in a more simplistic manner that would have
Right.
caught the attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the feedback is you've got to get them to wow before you can get them to listen to all of this other data you started to say, right? So, you know, remember my point about one or two numbers, right? And you were off $4 or $4.5 to be exact, and $2.69 and this and the 42. You had all these, and I can't hear all those numbers and remember them. So make big, clear points. Don't jam a whole bunch of stuff in. All right?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Thank you. Big hand for Arsalan.
Okay. Next up,
Did you notice, though, how quickly he learned? Did you see that? Right? You know, number 2, there it is. He sticks it in my face. I got it right there. Of course, you know, but this is the classic example of my other point, right? Which is, you know, how many people hearing the word WizRan, how many would assume that's a smart meter, right? A smart water meter. I don't know, but okay, but that's good. That was good. All right. Who's up next? Hey, Rob, who's up next?
you'll like the next one then. The next one is Flipside. So let's hear it from Andrew from Flipside.
All right. Hey, Andrew, great to meet you. How you doing?
Doing very well.
Great.
Can you hear me all right?
So tell me a little. I see Flipside over there, huh?
Indeed.
Hey,
yes.
great. So what's Flipside up to?
So Flipside's going to change how people, you're going to transition your calendar from a static item into a social tool. There's a lot of communication platforms today that people can share their present and past. There isn't a horizontal application that enables you to share, communicate, and interact with your future. In Flipside, a post is on your forward timeline, and it's a way to communicate where you will be, when, and what you want to do while there. You're then able to engage with this flip by finding other people who will be at the same place, same time. You can use hashtags to connect with the right people based on your interest, background, or whatever you want to do while there. In terms of marketing, the user is also able to use it to connect with events and promotions wherever they're going to be. So you're now able to market events and promotions in a very targeted way. It's based on who I am, where I'm going to be, when, and what I want to do while there. We are currently launching Apple and Android. We have over 1 million events, and we just released it in March. And we have big marketing partnerships through Student Universe, Erasmus, and others that we're going to market it through.
Okay. Wow. Okay, great. So this man has his 1 minute pitch down. How about that? That was,
Right on time.
that was really good. So, all right. So Flipside, you're going to change your calendar from a static thing to a social thing. We're going to, that was your first sentence, something like that, right? Something like that. Were you all tracking at that point? Was that we're going to change your calendar from a static thing to a social thing? So I don't. Well, I'm you know, that's not crystal clear,
Okay.
right? Okay, so then let's see, and then you were talking about how you said something about posting in the future instead of you were, you know, somehow you're posting into the future, and that sentence wasn't quite clear. So finally you got to the point where you're saying that when you put things on your calendar, presumably your friends can see it, and so they can see where you are and you can see where they are. Is that the big idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's both
Okay.
friends of friends, people of similar interests. So you're able to basically
Okay.
connect to people before you get anywhere. You're able to see who else is going to be there, make friends, walk into a socially comfortable environment.
Okay.
And you can also see events and promotions wherever you will be.
Okay, so as the more you got through your 50, your minute, the more it seemed like it was an events calendar and not my day-to-day calendar.
It's both. So it's a way
Okay.
to say I will be at, I'm going to London April 26th through 28th.
Right?
I'm interested in art. I can connect with other people interested in art who are also there. I can
Okay.
also see every event going on in London while I'm there. So I can sort by art events as well.
Okay, but do I use this in addition to my daily calendar?
Yeah, you have to share a flip on the system.
Okay.
And by doing so, you can then engage with it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, so most of what I heard was description of what it was, and so I got that you're posting things so your friends can see them, and you said things like you can hashtag them, and you can see who else is going to be in events. What is so there's a lot of stuff in here. What's the compelling benefit here? Why? So do you have any evidence? So have you launched yet?
We just launched in March. We have
Okay.
1,000 users already.
Okay.
It's new.
Right, so you got some downloads. So a great technique you should consider, if this is true, is if you've got some customers, some users who are saying, what I love about Flipside is ... What do they love about Flipside? Or what's amazingly compelling and unique that you have heard your users say they love about your app? So what is the most, so you've gotten a lot of feedback already, right? Even though you
Correct.
only have 1,000 users, you got
Yes.
feedback. So what's the, what we know as investors is that the way users react to any product or service is almost always different than what you expect, right? And hopefully, there's this amazing serendipity that they love something that you have uniquely that is exciting, that's going to be the basis of your marketing campaign going forward. What is it users love about your product?
A good example is, we just signed a partnership with Erasmus, 200,000 students studying abroad in Europe.
Okay.
Now, that's a group of students all spread out throughout all of Europe. By labeling themselves as an Erasmus student on their profile, you can select Erasmus, and if I'm an Erasmus student in London visiting Prague next weekend, I can see other Erasmus students who will also be in Prague at the same time.
Okay.
So it builds a
Okay.
community around their brand.
Okay. All right, I think I get it. Any other quick feedback for Andrew? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question. One of the things I found interesting is how does this compare, for example, like the normal calendar you have on your phone? Because you can, of course, share that with a smaller community or with friends and family.
Right.
Because
Right. So the
how we
question.
have.
So again, what most people were thinking here is, well, can't you already do that with some calendars that are out there? Right. That's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right. And so you don't have to answer it now. We're out of time. But you got to make
Thank you.
sure that you preempt that issue.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Early on. Okay. So, yeah, one. Quick, since we have you.
So just quickly, you touched upon this, but he started out with a very high-level, abstract, impressive sounding, but a little bit, it was hard for me to follow the first couple sentences. Is that, so Bill, are you advising that you don't start with that sort of very abstract, sort of a complex sounding, you to go right into what it does?
Exactly. Again, would TechCrunch have used your first sentence?
No.
Right. So I'm not saying to follow my template all the time, okay? But I'm just saying it's really, no matter what, every one of you is going to get those three questions. Every one of you is going to get, so what do you do? And you can't answer, you're going to change your calendar so that it's no longer static, but now it's social.
Okay.
You can't say that. That's not, I'm right.
Understood.
Yeah, okay. And then somebody's going to say, so who are your customers and what's the benefit to your customers? You got to have that answer, right? And then some people's going to say, well, how are you different from all those other calendars? And, what evidence do you have that yours is better?
Okay.
And so you got to have the answer to that
This is your
question.
template.
So you're going to need those three sentences no matter what. Now you might be able to put the first part together in a better way, but no matter what, you got to have those three sentences at some point. So I would encourage you all just to have those three sentences. You can use them when you need them, and if you can craft a better intro, then go ahead. But you still need those three sentences. All right?
Understood. Thank you.
Super. Hey, great. Good job. All right. Okay. Keep going.
Okay.
All right, who's up?
Next, we have Kalyan from Price Post. Let's hear it for Price Post.
Hi, Bill.
Kalyan, hey.
I'm Kalyan, hi.
Kalyan.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Price
so-
Post.
Price Post. So,
Good. Did you just rewrite that, or was that there before? That's great. Price Post.
So I'm the founder of Price Post. What we want to do is we want to connect people on everyday prices. We want you to post prices online, and we want you to share experiences and post prices for everyday things that you guys buy, right? It could be a monthly recurring bill, it could be your healthcare bill, or it could be just about anything that you buy, right? So right now, if you want to share your experience online for something you bought or something you've paid for, it is not so simple. We at Price Post, we want to gather user responses so we can address the price question. So you can share your experiences with other users, connect with them, share value, find value for things that you do every day. Pretty much connecting people on everyday prices. That is what we want to do.
Okay. All right, great. Wild applause, wild applause. Okay, good. All right. Okay, I'm going to be tough on you, Kalyan. Okay?
Yes.
So, your first sentence was something like, we enable you to share everyday prices on the things you buy, something like that, right? And then your second sentence was something like, we enable you to post the prices of the things that you buy every day. And then your third sentence was something like, when you want to find out what things cost, you can find out on Price Posts, and we make it easy for you to post prices. So, and then your fourth sentence was, if you want to post price, I don't know. Well, I mean,
So 5 words.
All right, okay.
5 words. Connect people on everyday prices.
Right, okay, that was your first sentence. Connect people on everyday prices. What does that mean to us? Okay, so somebody walks up to you, or you wind up at a website, and you see Price Posts, and the tagline, I bet, is connect people on connect people on everyday prices. Anybody here stand up and go, wow, finally, thank God. So, okay, so we're struggling. The group here, we're all struggling. We're also, so I get you're trying to crowdsource this massive database of data on pricing, and I can imagine how having a massive database of crowdsourced prices possibly is valuable, mainly, I would think, to the CPG companies.
Especially in healthcare. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm thinking it's more valuable to the companies than it is to the consumer.
Well, if you take healthcare, for example, right now it is almost impossible to find prices for healthcare products and services online.
Right.
So, if you were...
That's a very particular domain. Is that where you're starting? Is that your focus?
So that is also one of our focus.
But that's not everyday prices, is it?
Well, it is not that is not everyday price. So we also are, we want to source pricing for, your monthly recurring bills like cable or, your, AT&T phone bills and all of that, right? So we believe that, going from your, monthly bills would allow people to kind of also post prices for healthcare just in time, items that, would be helpful to other users. So.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sort of half in and half out of your camp here. I mean, I don't think anybody here has any agita over discovery of the prices on monthly bills. We know what they are, and there are all sorts of services out there for finding a better carrier, for finding a better cable, for finding right? So you haven't differentiated yourself from all the other price promotion discovery tools that are out there, at least on the monthly bill kind of level, right?
Yeah, it's right now it's not that transparent. I mean, you have to search. You have to go online and do some search. So we want to consolidate all of that into one platform. So
okay, I'm sorry. Best cable service, right? Okay.
Okay.
right? I'm going to get a bazillion responses,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
Is it that, is your, so is it that much worse than your solution? I mean, I'm not
it is-
finding, right?
right,
You
it
see
is-
what I'm pushing you on here,
Right.
all
It
right?
is very convenient for people to go and
Okay.
find the right prices from other choosers. So it creates more context from value perspective.
Okay, you're stuck on this, okay? And I get on healthcare that's an issue, but that's a really complex issue. And there are people trying to solve that.
Okay.
But it feels pretty different than everyday prices. And so I think you need to tighten this up. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right?
Okay. Great.
Any other advice? Yeah? Did he? Right.
So for you, if so, right now, we've all wondered,
Okay, I think
what-
I'm not gonna have you go into it.
Okay.
But the point is clear, right?
Yes.
I mean, we infer that if you have all this price database, you're going to find better prices. That's what
right.
we infer, right?
right, yes.
But you never said directly, and ideally, if you had been able to say, for example, in our beta test, our customers were able to save, some unbelievable amount of money on milk because of price posts or whatever, right?
Right.
If that's true, right? Right? So, and then the value prop would be clear and obvious and substantiated. But you didn't get there. You never got there in the whole minute, okay?
Great.
All right?
All right, thank you
Great.
so much,
Thank
Rob.
you.
All right,
Thank you for that. All right.
Okay, next up we have Jeff Bradford from Bradford Technologies. How do you like that name?
Perfect. Hey, Jeff. Good to meet you. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Pretty good? Just pretty good?
Pretty good.
Yeah? How can I make your world better?
So what we're doing,
Okay. Thank you.
what we're doing is we're transforming appraisals from a traditional manual process to one that is more automated and uses analytics to determine a value. Now, this is really good news for lenders who are desperate for a quicker appraisal. And we know that we can reduce the time from weeks to days because we've already performed over 100,000 proof of concept valuations nationwide. We have about 9 to 12 months head start on our competitors, and we want to take advantage of that and capture 30% of the market in the next 18 months. That's about 5 million appraisals. At $15 a transaction, it's $75 million of revenue annually. We've already earned over $2 million. We have a run rate of 1,500 transactions a month, and we're looking for additional capital to accelerate our marketing and development.
Okay. All right. Pretty good, right? Okay. So that was really good. So Bradford Technologies, right? So we automate appraisals, right?
That's right.
Okay. That was pretty clear. And then you said the good news about that is we save time for the mortgage brokers
Mortgage brokers, lenders in general.
Lenders okay, we save time for lenders. Get that. Is there any evidence to suggest that you are more accurate or equally accurate or less accurate than the current approach?
Yes, we're more reliable because
Okay.
we have analytics.
You said, you threw in analytics. Okay,
Right.
What's the evidence that makes a difference?
They're doing, the current appraisal is subjective.
Okay,
The appraiser picks 3 comps, says here's the value. It's very subjective.
okay, that's interesting. Okay, so now how are you different from the current approach and from your near competitors?
So our near competitors are, and so are we, in the form filling business. That's the only technology appraisers use. is
right, right.
Appraisal form filling.
Right?
So they are focused on form filling. We're actually focused on obsoleting form filling by automating it. So that's why we have about a 1-year head start on it.
Okay, was that a good answer to that question? I wasn't a good answer.
Okay.
I got to
Okay.
That was a rhetorical question. Okay, I asked you what's the evidence that you are better? And you said the current approach is form filling. We're form filling too, but we're trying to automate that. So what I was looking for, right, was, okay, so I get how eliminating form filling might speed things up, but I can't imagine that's the critical path in speed. Okay, so somehow you've got this magical access to magical data that enables you to be faster and better than the current approach. Right? You never sort of brought that in. I was expecting you to, but in terms of unlike the current approach, you didn't say we have data they don't have. You did say they're subjective. And I'm basically wondering, well, how are you any different in terms of the data that they have? And so somewhere you've got data they don't have. That's what you're saying.
We've put it together. They have not.
We've put it together. They have not. Okay. You hear where I'm going with this?
I do.
Okay. So there's a secret sauce here that is his differentiation. Somehow he's got secret access or special access to some sort of data and therefore analytics that the current guys don't have. Now, you're stretching my credibility a little bit. Because you're not making clear where you're getting this data that nobody else can get. So I'm kind of, do I trust him or not, you know? So you got to be careful, you know, if you make assertions like, well, they're subjective and we're not. Because, I mean, I need more to feel confident that you're not just blowing smoke at me. So I trust that you're not, because he looks like a really trustworthy guy, doesn't he? Right? So I'm sure you're trustworthy, okay? But, you know, help me out with that, all right?
Okay.
Any other comments for Jeff? That was pretty clear, right? And the one other thing you didn't say is, are you cheaper, or where are you pricing versus everybody? Your attitude is, I mean, one end I would say you could charge more, right? But you're just right now, are you charging more or less, the same?
Yeah. So I'll just make it real brief because time expired. But we've been doing this for about 7 years, experimenting.
Okay.
We've spent about $5 million on this thing.
Okay.
And we've tried a lot of different pricing models.
Okay.
$5, 30, different transaction, not transaction.
Okay.
We've experimented all over the place.
Okay.
And so our competitors have not.
Okay.
So we have this knowledge, we have this vision, this path.
Okay.
And we've come up with a model that we think really resonates with with lenders and appraisers.
Okay, now Jeff, what I wanted to hear is, are you cheaper or not?
Well, we're actually the only, we're the only game in town at $15. Nobody else is doing this. So I can't be cheaper or more expensive. I'm the only one doing it.
Okay, we're out of time here, but so today, if you want to get your house appraised, you've got to pay $600 and wait 4 weeks.
Right.
Thanks to Bradford Technologies, you can get your house appraised today and only pay $50. I don't know, something like that, right? Something like that.
No.
Is that not true?
No, that's not true.
That's not true. Damn it! Didn't you think that's what he was selling? That's what we thought you were selling.
Yeah.
Okay, so we misunderstood. Okay, so we're out of time.
I know.
We're out of time. I'm sorry, Didi, a real quick point. Your feedback is?
Yeah, he should highlight something about his secret sauce, the value that is not coming out.
Yeah. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, but you get my point. Now I don't know what you really do. Yeah. Okay? All right, so we'll figure this out.
If you
All
want.
Right? Okay, thank you. Damn it. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Last,
Oh, okay.
but
All
not
right.
least,
Of course not.
we have Johnny from EarnSmart. Let's hear it for EarnSmart.
All right, Johnny. Come on up. Hey, Johnny, good to meet you. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, good. So tell me, what does EarnSmart do?
Yeah, so I run a company called EarnSmart. So imagine if, even when cash was scarce, you could purchase something that you love every month or two without having to worry about that guilt sometimes associated with those more fun, frivolous purchases. Well, that's what we've developed at EarnSmart. We've created a savings application that allows you to automatically save up to purchase something great. And unlike competitors, our savings application links you with great deals, up to 25% off. And our payment processor is pretty cool. We've integrated a payment processor that reduces the cost of money transmitting by 10 times compared to the competitive solutions as we scale. So to source this marketplace, we're able to purchase discounted gift card deals from all of your favorite retailers. So there's going to be something you love on the platform. And we're partnering with small businesses who are trying to acquire new customers through the platform.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Johnny. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm looking at his face, and you're disappointed. You feel you didn't quite do as well as you thought you would do, right?
Didn't quite get to the other side of the marketplace.
Okay.
Value proposition for the small businesses.
Okay, all right. So let's work on this a little bit, all right? Okay, so, God bless. I'm Johnny. I run a company called EarnSmart. Imagine if you could buy those fun things you want to buy without all the guilt you associate with buying frivolous things. Okay, I'm on a sled. I'm going down the hill. We'll see where it goes, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to think. So then, with EarnSmart, we enable you to save money automatically.
Correct.
And then, it sounds like we aggregate a bunch of cool stuff at a price that could be as much as 25% less than you would find elsewhere. All right, so he's kind of painting a picture in here of what we got. And then you go off into, we have a payment processing system that's better than everybody else's payment processing system. And I'm going, payment processing, transfer, huh? Why is this an issue? Why is this even an issue, right? Yeah. So you're kind of leading, I just fell off your sled, okay? And then you finished and you were disappointed because you didn't get to the quote-unquote other side of the market. So, okay, so now I'm guessing somehow some of your secret sauce is in aggregating all these gift sites of some sort.
That's right.
To give special deals, but there's a lot of complexity here. We're over a minute into this. There's a lot of complexity, not a lot of clarity. You got to get to the point faster. How do people automatically save money save money to buy things in your model?
So we track your purchases, and every time you make a purchase, you transfer 50 cents, $1, or $2 into your EarnSmart account. And there are different savings applications that do this.
Right.
But our cost model is significantly superior because we've integrated.
That's the transfer issue. That's what you're saying. Okay. So instead of, there's those apps out there that do your pennies or your spare change, right? They're those apps, right?
Yeah, and they're built on bank partnerships, and they pay a per transaction ACH transfer fee.
Okay. So you're way down in the weeds on the ACH, architecture on this transfer thing. We still don't quite understand what you're doing, right? So you got to get us, right? So you got to get us clear what you're doing at the front end before you get us down into the weeds on the transaction stuff. Okay. Compelling value proposition is basically saving money for the consumer. So this is good. Oh, good. You're a two-sided market.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So one of the challenges in this model is if you've got a two-sided market, then you've got to have two compelling benefits, right? You've got to have a compelling benefit for both sides of the market. And if you have a two-sided market, then from an investor point of view, we have this anxiety about, oh crap, you've got to get critical mass on both sides. Because if you don't have enough of one side, nobody will show up on the other. So that's the challenge of two-sided markets. So you've got to be even more compelling if you have a two-sided market. And so I got, maybe you're going to save me money buying frivolous gifts. That's what I got, right?
Yep.
So on the other side, I can infer that you're going to give me leads for customers, right?
That's right. And we can solve the kind of chicken or the egg issue in a marketplace temporarily by purchasing gift cards from your favorite retailers. And so we earn a margin on that. We get a customer acquisition fee once we build out the rest of the other side of the marketplace.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments on EarnSmart? So the main one is this issue of, aren't there a lot of other apps that help me save money, you know, pennies and things like that? And your preemption to that is yes, but they're too expensive.
My preemptive to that is yes, and we connect our users with great deals. They just help you accumulate cash or put it into an investment account.
Right. But there are a bazillion of places to find great deals, right?
Sure.
Okay. So
yeah, you talked about elephants in the room. My elephant in the room during your presentation was, if I save money to buy the thing that I really like, it has to be the thing that I really like, not the cheapest alternative that is on the available, not the only alternative available on the platform.
So we actually, that's why we're using gift cards rather than kind of the terrible item that Macy's doesn't care about anymore. We'll give you a $100 gift card to Macy's for $90. Oh, Macy's, sorry. I don't know what you're interested in.
She wants Tiffany's, right? Right?
There are upper scale businesses that we can source to. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you.
So let's hear it for all our presenters. It's not easy to get up there.
Thank you to all the entrepreneurs. Good work, you guys.
Hopefully
that was helpful.
Hopefully Bill wasn't too intimidating.
Right.
So we're going to take a few minutes. Bill's going to do a quick wrap up and maybe take a few questions from the audience. We have maybe 10 minutes before we get to our raffle. I know many of you are anxious to win $100, and that's why most of you are staying. But do me a favor. We're going to set up 2 mic stands. And basically, if you have a question, walk up to the mics. One is to amplify, one is to record. And it goes a long way towards us producing a quality video, which you can use as a resource over and over again. So do you want to do a wrap up and take questions?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I apologize about my hay fever and my voice and getting blown out there. So I appreciate your patience with my voice. But so a few really interesting things came out with these entrepreneurs. First of all, what you noticed was that the challenges for each one of them were different, right? I mean, the whole idea that there's a single right way to do a pitch is clearly a bad framework to think of. Each one of them has a pathway to a better way to do your pitch, and hopefully you made a little bit of progress here. Some of the things that came out I just wanted to remind you of. The great thing that happened here today is that everybody was pretty clear and articulate what they were doing. The name of the company was clear and articulate. A lot of entrepreneurs mumble through the name of their company, mumble through their own name, mumble through because you're uncomfortable at the beginning there. And also because you know what you're saying, and so you're not thinking about the fact that the listener may not be on board yet. I just encourage all of you, at the beginning, take a breath, pause, focus, and talk clearly about what you're doing. So the other thing that came up is it's clear it's hard to figure out what that first sentence is. I think most of you had problems with the first sentence, except for you had it printed on your card, right? So, whatever. So it is so powerful. It's so powerful if you have that first sentence and you're totally confident in that first sentence. It changes your whole demeanor, your whole relationship, if you have that first sentence clear. So that's your homework for tonight. I would encourage all of you, if you only do one thing as a result of tonight's session, figure out what that sentence is that is the clear, simple, understandable, memorable description of what you do that you hope will show up in the first paragraph of a TechCrunch article. Okay? Now, is there anything I said tonight that was unclear or confusing or seemed insufficient in your circumstance that you have a question about, you want to do follow-up? Do we have any other questions? Yes, Wizran. They want you to do the mic.
So Bill, you hit the nail, but my curiosity question is that the mass of the VCs is still think of the way that, that you said that's not the right way. So if we go with the way that you're suggesting, how many of the other VC community kind of like gets that?
The whole intent here is to be more effective, not just with VCs, but with everyone you communicate with.
Okay.
Customers, partners, prospective employees. So the whole intent here is to be clearer at communicating, not to articulate a philosophy or ideology of pitching. So if you have to explain the problem, go ahead and explain the problem. All I'm saying is most entrepreneurs chew up too much time saying obvious things.
Sure.
And most VCs are too polite to say, okay, forget that, get to the point, right? So I'm not being an ideologue here. I'm trying to help you with everyone.
Sure.
All right?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. So, by the way, okay. So what I'm going to do, what I didn't do, I get to finish up the advertising portion of the program here okay. So, yes. So tonight was about getting to WOW. I get to advertise. Greg Holson helped me with the slides. Great guy if you need help with your slides. What we're going to do is make these slides available to all of you if you want them. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. Rob, how do we do this? Okay. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to give you my email address. But before I give you my email address, the advertising portion of the program. If you want to learn the art of startup finance, you can go to the Kauffman Foundation, their founder school site. I did a video course on the art of startup finance. If you are an entrepreneur who is not trained in finance, you're not going to want to go take a graduate course in finance. What you want to learn is what is relevant for startup finance, and that's what we try to cover in this video. So it's at the Kauffman Founder School if you're interested in the art of startup finance. Go through this course. If you understand everything in the course, then you've got the right baseline. If you discover you don't understand everything in the course, then probably you need some additional coaching on that topic. So it starts with some simple sort of what do investors care about in terms of balance sheet, cash flow statement, capital statement, profit and loss. What do we care about? What do we pay attention to when we drill in at the baseline? And then we go through the business model and your projections and your dashboard and your KPIs. And that's where you want to be ahead of the game. So that's what the art of startup finance is about. And then my partner Guy Kawasaki and I, we did a video version of the art of the start, which is available at Skillshare.com. So the art of the start is was an event that Garage ran for entrepreneurs, a 2-day educational event, which Guy turned into a book, which now is available back in a video form. So that's available at Skillshare. And then I'm going to give you all my email address, okay? My email address is reichert@garage.com. Please don't abuse that. My Twitter handle is Bill Reichert. You can abuse that. That's okay. But my email address, I am fine if you have follow-up questions, if you disagree with me, if you want to tell me what you really thought of my feedback, or if you want slides, just send me an email at reichert@garage.com, and I'd be happy to send you the slides. So that's how we're going to cover off the slides. All right, any other questions? Yes.
Excuse me. is it ever appropriate to start off with the big idea is and then work into the other sentences?
Well, is it ever so it depends on the setting, right? So I can imagine if you're at a pitch competition and you're asked to go on stage and you've got one slide and you want to launch with something that you think is clear and compelling and has high impact, that happens to start with the big idea behind, hi, my name is Tom and my company is X. The big idea behind X is Y, right? It could work. It might work. Try it. Try it. There's no single recipe. So for each of you, what you want to do is develop these sentences, bounce them off of fresh brains. The test is if you do your wow to someone new and they can repeat it back to you, that at least you've passed the intelligible and memorable test. Then you got to ask them, is this compelling? And then you can work on that if it needs to be compelling. So try it, but test these things out before you put yourself at risk. But I'm telling you, what you're going to say at a trade show is going to be different than what you're going to say at a pitch competition when you're on stage, which is going to be a little different than what you're going to say when you walk into a conference room, which is going to be a little bit different than what you're going to say on your website. So you're not going to be able to just cut and paste, but the principles should apply. Okay? Does that make sense? Is that reasonable? Okay. Yeah. Nima, did you have a question? Yeah. I'll repeat it, or he wants you to run up here. Okay. Is this the last question? Oh, okay. Oh, we have a couple of. Okay. Could you line up then? Could you get up? So, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question.
So my question is pretty. Oh,
What?
okay. There's a lineup. All
Oh,
right.
dear.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Are we okay? Okay. We got to make it quick.
All right. So my question is, a lot of the times when people try to explain their wow, it's when they're starting up something new.
Yeah.
They are pitching a new idea or a new concept or whatever, new startup. How much? What can you actually do when you have an established company, established business, where people already kind of have an idea that they have at least some kind of background knowledge of what they think your company does?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is a good point. So again, the principles should apply whether or not it's a brand new concept. If it's a brand new concept that nobody has ever heard of before, it may be harder to be clear what you're doing. So for us at Garage, it's really easy, right? What's the first sentence for Garage? The first sentence for Garage is a seed and early stage venture capital firm. Now, everybody knows what a seed and early stage venture capital firm is, so that's good enough. But, we connect water with people or whatever, I'm sorry, that may not be clear.
Exactly.
So now then the question is, well, okay, how are you different from all the other seed and early stage venture capital firms? So it just shifts the burden to how are you different and better. I get what you do, but I want to know how you are better and different. Okay? Okay. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When are you doing this next? I regret not having signed up to pitch, and this was very helpful.
So stay in touch with Rob, and he'll let you know. Okay?
Hi, Bill. My company actually does a smart thread that can transmit heat and data on fabric. And this is something that is truly new. So I'm wondering, because I'm hearing lots of advice, people say you just go tell the VCs what it is. It's smart thread. And other people say, oh, you have to paint the big picture. You have to, let them see the future, see the data play in this. I'm just wondering, which is the better route? Because obviously all the VCs are very smart, like yourself. Thank you.
Well, not all the VCs are very smart. That's but okay. So when you say you have a smart thread that transmits data and heat, all right? So then our brain, every VC's brain is going to go spinning off into a bunch of questions. And so most of us will have roughly the same questions. You know, so where's the first best application? What's the value proposition in that application? How do you get to market? You're not going to make clothing, are you? Or are you going to sell to clothes? You know, so there's a bunch of obvious questions that will come out of this core value proposition that you need to be able to get through quickly and clearly.
Yep. So like that one pitch that's like basically get your attention. Like that's smart.
Well, so then, you know, so smart thread that transmits data and heat, I can imagine that's cool, so to speak, bad joke, but it's not obvious exactly what the compelling value proposition is to whom.
Okay.
I mean, data is one thing, heat is another thing, and I can see both, but I need you to quantify the compelling value proposition for whom. Okay? All right. Great. Thank you. Yes?
So quick question on crossing the gut check, because that's kind of a transitioning from wow to getting and not crossing the boundaries. So any tips on that, how we should basically give that evidence which will make it more prominent and get into the further discussion?
Right. Okay. You know, on passing the gut check, there's sort of three components of it. The first thing is the human component, which is I've got to have a positive reaction toward you as a person. I want to have an immediate sense that you are smart, you are capable, you are honest, you have high integrity, you work well with people, you know, that stuff that investors care about in their teams. And so, you know, that's just all about handling yourself well in a person-to-person situation. The next piece is the credibility thing, is the differentiation thing. How are you different from all those other guys that are doing the same thing? And that gets into things like, hopefully you have secret sauce that is credible, you know, or you have some capability or some magic, it better not be magic, but you've got something that nobody else has that differentiates you. And then the third piece of credibility is evidence. And, you know, we had this with the group here. We talked about, wouldn't it be, you know, if you've got the voice of the customer saying, essentially, this product is better than all of the other products because of this, that's really valuable. That's really powerful. So, and it's a great way to establish credibility really quickly, you know, as evidenced by the fact that Lockheed has decided to standardize on our smart thread for all of their astronaut suits. Whatever, I don't know. Is that true? I don't know. So something like that, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes?
Hi, Bill. Arjun, like Argentina, but not the Tina. My question to you is, of all the companies you've invested in your portfolio, who are you most proudest, and why? And was it the pitch? Was it the person, how they dressed themselves? Was it what the idea? What did really make them so compelling?
I love all my children equally.
Okay.
You know, having said that, right?
Sure.
You know, we've had several big winners that, of course, as a VC, I'm proud of. I'm actually very proud of a couple of big losers. That's a longer conversation. But, you know, and that relates to a lot of other factors. But, you know, the two just to pick off. We were the first investors in Pandora. So Pandora was an 11-year overnight success, which is to say it was a long, hard, tough road. And the reason Pandora, you know, became a multi-billion-dollar company was because of the resilience and persistence of Tim Westergren. So Tim Westergren was one of the three founders, and he taught us so much about the power of resilience and persistence. And, you know, and so I can't say I can be proud of him, but it's something that is a bright, shining light in terms of our experience was Tim Westergren. And stunningly, he is now the CEO of Pandora. And just an incredibly great guy. The other one is Delight Design. You know, Delight Design, just because of the way this team came together and executed, Delight Design is the only company we ever funded, you know, in spite of all of this brilliant high vision, blah, blah, blah. They are the only company we have ever funded that actually hit their business plan in terms of the time and cost it took them to ship the first product. Virtually no entrepreneur ever hits their time and cost budget for shipping the first product, and these guys, unbelievably, 4 graduate students out of Stanford, they hit their number. Now, they hit other bumps along the way, but, you know, in spite of the fact they were doing this big, you know, nice to do, philanthropic, save lives thing, they actually executed unbelievably well. And so for that, you know, they stand head and shoulders above most entrepreneurs.
Cool. Thank
So,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great question. Yeah.
Thank you. By the way, let me share that I feel very grateful to be here tonight. You're such an inspiring icon.
I appreciate that.
I'd like to share a personal struggle with you as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I'd love to start with moonshot
Okay.
ideas.
Yeah.
And I know that you have to downscale these ideas, do a reverse engineering, and then start with a small piece of it so you could show that you can pull it off.
Right.
But when you do this reverse engineering, I personally failed to pull out that wow factor from that, you know, smaller scale version of the idea.
You know, I don't know. I mean, that reminds me of the Netflix story, right? Now, you know, okay, so here, you know, Reed Hastings has this brilliant idea, and he says, you know, we're going to call it Netflix, right? And so there it is. It's 2003 or 4. I don't know what year it was, but whatever year it was. And so what does he do? He says, I'm going to put DVDs into Tyvek envelopes and stick them in the mail. And you kind of go, ugh, right? I mean, okay, la-di-da, Blockbuster by mail, ugh, right? But God bless him, you know, he called it Netflix. We knew what he was going to try to do, right? But he couldn't do it day one. Day one, he had to scale back, and he had to stick DVDs in the mail. But, you know, as he was able to paint this larger vision to the investors who, you know, it was credible enough that, boy, if you can take this position, given all the work you got to do with the studios and the work you got to do building the customer base, blah, 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 he was able to paint this picture that said, we're going to be able to get here and own that part of the market. So that's what you got to do. You know, you got to say, hey, I'm going to put DVDs in Tyvek envelopes and stick them in the mail and get the investors to say, wow, that's incredibly visionary, right?
All right, thank you.
All right, good luck with that. All right, okay. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.